Hello, everyone, and welcome to MiniCon. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see so many amazing students and people who are not our students also joining us. So welcome to MiniCon. Now, you may have attended our other sessions for today, but if you haven't attended any sessions and you want to attend more sessions today and tomorrow, we have tickets available for MiniCon. So there's still time to attend tomorrow's sessions. So there's a link in the chat where you'll be able to click. There's very few tickets available. So here's your opportunity to click now and make sure that you reserve a spot for yourself. Now, if you're an APC or English Unlimited student, don't forget that we have our Growth Stories competition, which is the biggest APC competition we've ever had. The part of the competition is you have to make a 1-minute video and you could win a laptop, a JBL speaker, or AirPods. And all you have to do is submit your video by the 16th of September, but you have to be an APC or English Unlimited student. So we are also putting that link on the chat. So if you want to compete and you want to win all these amazing prizes, this is your opportunity to do that. And one last thing is if you are not an APC student and you want to find out a bit more about our courses and what we do, you can go to our website, which is abc.edu.au. We will put that in the link. All right. So before further ado, let's begin our MiniCon presentation. And I'm really excited to present Gabriela, who is not only an established digital content specialist, but she's also a previous APC student. So we're really happy to have our own APC student so successful and telling us how she's achieved her success. Now, she was born in Brazil and moved to Australia just 4 years ago to gain work experience as a content writer. Today, she works as a digital content specialist for the biggest electric skateboard company in the world. So she will be talking to you about how to enter the digital media market. So I know as an international student, it can be quite difficult to understand the ins and outs of entering job markets. So she will tell you all about that. So welcome, Gabriela. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. When I received the invitation, I was super excited, especially in a year like that where, you know, the job market and everything is so uncertain. I was so happy when I received it, and I was like, okay, let's share what worked well for me. I don't think how I found my career, it's a cakes recipe. Maybe it will work for you, but what I want to share here is what I did since I arrived in Australia, and you may take some tips, some hacks that I used for your own journey. First, I would like to start a little bit with why I decided to move to Australia. I graduated in journalism, and after a year, I was a little bit lost. I always loved communication. I always liked journalism, but with social media and internet, things had changed. So the things that I learned in my bachelor course back home in Brazil were not quite the same, the things that were happening at the newsroom or were not happening on the like online scene. So I was like, okay, I need to do something about it. And I don't have kids, I don't have husband, my parents are health. If I don't go for a big trip now, I would not be able to do that, you know, any other time. So I packed my things and I moved to Australia to study social media marketing. And my goal to move to Australia was to find a job that I could go anywhere in the world and I could take that experience with me. So if I go to USA, I could work as a digital marketer in USA, South Africa, in Europe, in New Zealand, anywhere. So that I came to Australia with that idea really, really like clear in my mind. So I was already on that side. I was studying, doing a diploma of social media marketing, and the course was very interesting in a sense that the instructor was always pushing us to apply what we were learning on a daily basis on our own projects. So before, I think 3 months before the end of the course, I was working. First, I started to work as a dishwasher in a cafe. Then I went to a travel agency. And then I was like, okay, it has been 3 months. I have 3 months before the graduation. I need to get an internship. I need to get a hands-on project. I need to do something. I think, Joe, you can go for the next slide, please. And yeah, so at the end of the course, I was like, okay, I have a good understanding how social media works. I have a good understanding of SEO works, how email marketing works. So I have a big, like not an in-depth understand, but I have a big picture. I know how to have a conversation about marketing strategies. So the course along the way gave me the confidence to say, okay, I think now it's about time to get an internship. So now I will talk a little bit how I landed this first internship that was what opened like the doors for me. And so moving to the next one, I have basically 3 kind of straightforward tips. They are very easy in theory, but they require kind of a lot of work. But I promise that this really paid off. So the first one is that you need put yourself out there in networking. On this next slide, I included some of the tactics, like the strategies that I had to kind of put myself out there, create my name. Especially, I think, as an international student, we start from scratch. We start our friendship here from scratch. We don't know anyone. We don't know how is the work culture here. For example, back in Brazil, if I needed a job, I would call my friends that I graduated at uni and say, hey, I'm looking for some freelancing job. I'm looking to get experience on this area. Do you know anyone that has a project that I can help with? But here, when you arrive, like that you need to start from scratch, you need to put yourself out there. So if we go to the next slide. So what I did was like for at least 6 months, I would say, if not more, I went to every single event that had on that time I was living in Brisbane, event that was related to my expertise, my area. I know that now with COVID, things are a little bit tricky with events, but even like online events like these ones, or I used to go at least every week to an event. And I used to find them on Eventbrite or Meetup. There's also very interesting institutions. Here on the Gold Coast, we have the Gold Coast Student Hub. That it's a really nice place where you can meet other students. They have events about career. They have events about how to make your resume, and also Generation U, that it's an institution based in Brisbane. They are really focused on helping young people to find their graduate jobs. So I would strongly recommend to get in contact with those institutions, follow them on Facebook, on Instagram, or their email marketing. And I don't know about other cities in Sydney or Melbourne, but I imagine that they had, similar institutions. So what I would say, go for it, engage with the student community, engage with your area of expertise. So other thing that I did to put myself out there was to do volunteer work in some events. And this one that I have the photo here, the first one, it was really interesting because it was a WordPress event, and they had really good speakers that I really want to see, to hear what they had to say. But I remember that the ticket for me was a little bit expensive on that time, and I was like, oh, I would love to go to this event, but I cannot afford the ticket. So I sign up to be a volunteer. So I would go earlier a little bit to help them to set up the event. And then I was able to watch the presentations. And I made some business cards with my blog that I will talk about it later, but I had a business card that I had that with me. And then I used to talk with people and ask about their LinkedIn. After the event, I would say, hey, nice to meet you on the event, good to connect, send an email. So people would have my face, my name in front of them. And if along the way there was an opportunity, probably, or hopefully, I would be in front of them. And after going to all these events, especially about content production, I realized that I knew I had some specific knowledge about some topics that people on those events, they didn't know. So back home, I used to study a lot about search engine optimization. So that's how Google ranks the content, all the pages that it has on Google. I studied a little bit of that. And then I realized that when I went to events that bloggers were there or people that produce content, they were not really familiar with SEO. So I was like, okay, I think I would add something to that. So for the meetup group in Brisbane about WordPress, I put my hands up and said, hey, I could be the speaker of the next event. So with that, I could share what I knew about SEO and help someone with the tips that I had, but also put my name out there and make people know that I know stuff, that it's not because English is not my first language, it's not because I'm working with something totally different that I don't have a knowledge on digital marketing. So I really wanted to show that, to take that, is not a stigma, but I want to put myself out there, and I wanted to create my personal brand type of thing as a digital marketer. So that took me almost 6 months and many events. And then along the course that I did of social media marketing, Joe, we can show the next one that I have some screenshots. When you go to an interview, and I found that on the process of going to interviews and send my resumes, is that you need to have your portfolio. You need to have something to show to people. When you go to an interview, you need to have numbers, examples to illustrate what your capabilities are. So along the course of the Diploma of Social Media Marketing, I developed a website. The name is Vitamin C, because on that time I used to live on a sailing boat. And I was like, okay, everybody asking me about how it's to live on a boat. So I should get, do a blog about it. And in journalism, we don't, normally we don't have the freedom to write about what we want to write. And I was like, okay, this blog, I'll write things that I like to write about and things that are interest for me. So it was more like a hobby type of thing, but always with the idea, with the goal of like, okay, I'll use this as a portfolio when I feel that I'm ready to go on interviews. And everything that I was learning in the course of Diploma of Social Media Marketing, I started to apply on this blog. So techniques of SEO, how can I write an article that it will rank higher on Google? A little bit of web design too, because I didn't have a team. I was doing everything. So I was doing some graphic arts for social media. I did a little bit of email marketing. So I always wanted to go to North Stradbroke Island, and if you've never been there, maybe Google it. It's just a paradise. I love that place. And on that time, I didn't have a car, and I want to go by train. And I couldn't find basically one place with all the information about how to get there, what to do, and how much it would cost me, and what are the attractions that I could see. So I developed an ebook. So on Canva, from scratch, with the photos that I took on the days that I visited Strati, I made these ebooks with all the tips that you guys need to know how to get there by public transport. And then I started to share this ebook as a way of people, so as a way to grow my email marketing list. Because if you go to my blog, you can find the ebook. To download the ebook, you need to leave your name and your email. And then I start to nurture and to send content to those lists, to those people on that list, so I could practice my email marketing skills, and I could test things. I could try different things. I could see, okay, what is a good engagement rate? What are the things that I can do? How can I segment things? And everything basically was for free. I just paid for the hosting and for the domain. Like the email marketing stuff, I was using a free platform. Everything I was doing kind of organically and for free. I used to go on Facebook groups of students in Brisbane, and I used to say, hey guys, if you're thinking about an activity to do on the weekends, I prepared this ebook, this guide that you can download for free. And then I put some really nice tips about what to see and how to get to North Stradbroke Island. So I had those kind of small projects, under my belt. And then when I decided to go to get an internship, I was like, okay, I don't have experience because I used to be a journalist and not a digital marketer. So my experience before was like not really valid on that sense. Of course, it's always valid, but I couldn't use the portfolio that I had there. So I used this one that I had, and then I started to send. I had a list of all the digital marketing agencies in Brisbane and all the agencies on the Gold Coast, because on that time I was thinking about moving to the Gold Coast. So on the next slide, I have an example of the email that I used to send to get an internship. And what I found is like the tags in black are the name of the person and also the name of the company. And on this cover letter, I used to say, hey, I want to be part of your team. I'm looking for an internship. I don't have a proper experience. That's why I'm looking for an internship. But on my blog, I used to do this. I used to do that. I did this online course. I'm about to finish my diploma of social media marketing. I really wanted to collaborate with your company. So I spent, I don't know how many days sending those emails. And with this cover letter, like on the body of the email, that was exactly the email that I sent. I used to attach my resume, but my resume on the bottom, I used to include the logo of the company, because imagine how many resumes companies receive every day of people looking for a job. I needed something to stand out. So for example, I used to, there's this digital marketing agency, I used to go on their LinkedIn, find maybe the HR manager or find the owner, someone. I would not put it just the HR manager. I would put their name. I want to be as personal as I could be, so that would put me a little bit up, among others resumes. And I would say that I sent more than 100 maybe emails. And some people replied to me, invited me for an interview. Other companies I never heard about from them. And then when I went to the company that I got the internship, the first thing that the owner told me, it was like, I really like how you put the logo of our company on the bottom, and also how you explain your skills on the cover letter. And I was like, yes, win. And so basically on that interview, I couldn't understand what he was talking about, all the metrics that he had that he needs to deliver to his clients. I never had the experience of working on a paid campaign, for example, but I knew what he was talking about, and I think that it made really the difference. And one thing that was really important on that internship was that he had a plan for me. He was like, okay, you will be here with us for 3 months. And I used to go there maybe once or twice a week. And he had a plan. There was like, okay, today we will talk about this. I have this task for you. It's for this client. And we wanted to achieve this with this project. That's why I want you to do this, this, and that. And that, I think, made all the difference, because I already started all the internships that the person asked me to organize the files. And I was like, I'm here to learn. I want to learn. I'm putting my time here to learn. So it's a relationship that both ends needs to win. The employer needs to win, and also the student needs to win. And that leads to my next slide, where I understand, and I felt that when I was on this process, I was like, I want so much this position, want so much to work in my area, that we want so much something, but we cannot like accept anything. And that's what I mentioned about the internship that asked me to do the file. It's like, no, I'm putting my time here. I'm putting, my knowledge, because my knowledge is not, I'm not the most experienced person, but I have an idea what I'm talking about. I have an idea of what you guys are looking for. So it's something that both ends needs to win and both ends needs to respect their time, because the company, like in the end, this digital agency that I got, that I started internship, I worked there for almost 2 years, a little bit more. So after I finished the internship, they hired me, and that was because they knew that if they train me the way that they want, that will save them much more time along the way. So it's not something that they are doing us international students a favor. They are also winning with for you being there. And that goes to the second point that I made, this list, that things that we need to have really clear in mind, really clear. And the first point that I included there is like, use your background as an advantage. And I said that because one of the main things that was in my head was, okay, I'm a journalist. Journalists, they write always really well. They always have the perfect grammar, but English is not my first language. You know, how can these two things coexist? And when I went to the interview where I'm working right now, that it's a multinational company. We have like operations and distribution centers across 40 countries. When I went to the second interview, they were like, okay, do you speak any other language? Like, English is not your first language, right? And I was like, yeah, I speak Portuguese as as a mother language, and Spanish. I know a little bit of Spanish. And then when they asked me that question, I was like, okay, that's it. Yeah, I will not get this position, because I was thinking, I had that idea that speaking other language, or not speaking English as your first language would be a disadvantage. But on the other hand, when they hired me, they were like, we were really excited that you speak Portuguese, you speak Spanish. We are expanding to Europe. We always need someone, to oversee that. It's always good to have someone that speaks other language in our company. And I was like, oh my God. And on my team, there's a guy that is Japanese, two people that are from China. So sometimes the blocks are more in our mind than it's on the other, on the market, let's say. So always use your background as a weapon. That's what makes you different to other people that are looking for the same position as you. And the last thing that I also wants to make like really clear, it's let your work speak louder than any challenge, that any difficult time. There was meetings that I went that I couldn't understand 100%. But I knew I had the data. I did my research first, and then I was like, okay, we did a good job. I can back myself up. Or there was times that I don't like to speak on the phone. I'm not someone that really likes to talk on like if it's an informal conversation, yes. But when it's business, I'm a more visual person. So at my other work, I need to call clients. And then I was like, okay, I will prepare myself, and we will have the data. We will have all the information that, they may need. So when I call them, I have, all the information, then I can convince that person that we did a really good job for their company, and they could see the results. I prefer letting the numbers show that I'm good at than, anything else. So I think that is 3 key things that you need to have in mind when you go to look for a job and go and find, your opportunities. And I can guarantee that this first job was the most difficult to get it, But after you get experience, you start to know people, you start to have, increase your portfolio, you get more experience, you understand how the work culture works here, then things start to get changed. And I think now with COVID, our life turning to digital, and companies, they realize that they need people to oversee their digital strategies. Even like digital marketing companies, they have more clients, they are looking for people. So I think couldn't have a better time to find a job in the digital marketing space. I think that is the time. And that's what I used on my strategy to land this job that I really like today. When I go to work, it's really made it all the effort worth it. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. That was really, really great. We do have a couple of questions that have come in. The first one is, I always feel that my student visa is a problem when I go for jobs. How can I get my first opportunity? Like, I think the student's asking whether they should mention the visa straight away or leave it.
Yeah, I think you need to be kind of wise on that sense, because a really big company that has more than 200 employees, they want someone full-time because they have the amount of work that requires someone to be full-time there. But a small company that is just starting, is more like the agency that I started, they were really small. So for the owner, it was a really good thing that I was a student, that I had the 20 hours limitation, because he couldn't commit to have someone full-time. That would be really expensive for him. It would be a big investment. But he was like, okay, 20 hours, I can afford to have someone 20 hours. And so then I started off with that. And then when I went to the electric skateboard company, I mentioned to them, I can do just this amount of hours because I'm doing my master's now, and I don't have like brain basically to take a full-time position. And I tried to make that as clear as I could. I didn't want to have that feeling that they are taking me on board, but they don't know. I was like, I mentioned on the cover letter, I mentioned on the first interview, and I mentioned on the second interview, and they said, no, we are happy with that. There's no issue. So I think it's possible. Not all the companies and not all the big companies, you would be able to get an opportunity, but definitely there's someone out there that needs help with their digital marketing, and your visa would not be an issue.
Great. And would you say that it would be a good tactic then to focus on smaller companies to begin with for your first internship?
I would say so, but that at least worked for me. So like I sent resumes to big companies and I couldn't even get a reply because they are more focused maybe on people that get out of universities or bigger courses. Yeah, I would say start small and then go from it.
I can see you're getting a lot of very positive comments in the chat. Some people want to have a cup of tea with you after lockdown.
Oh my God, I would love to.
I think this is particularly inspiring for our students because they're really in that challenge right now. So you're really giving them profound insight. So it's really, really great to see.
Yeah.
Just some more questions. How were the interviews? Did you have to show your portfolio? I think you touched on that in the presentation.
Yeah, I didn't need to show properly, but I needed like to give an example. So I started my blog, and then when I started to do the email marketing, I noticed like the number of visitors increased by 20%. I had a number. Even that the 20%, my visitors was like, I don't know, 100 visitors per month, sometimes, good days. But at least I had something that they knew that the knowledge was there, and I just needed to scale. So I could have a conversation with them and explain, okay, the reason why I did the ebook, the guide about North Strategy, was to get visitors, so I could retarget them using this strategy, blah, blah, blah. So that's what they wanted to hear, like the process of developing the strategy, and also a little bit of numbers to see if you have an idea of what you were talking about, type of thing.
So basically going prepared with some good examples to back up what you're saying. Great. Okay.
Exactly. I believe that if you are applying for a web design position, that will be different type of thing. So but I would say have something ready to say, hey, I have experience about this. Here we go.
Yeah, and this is why, just so you don't go blank in an interview. Jackie's got a question. She said, is your master's in digital marketing as well? Do you have your own business?
Now, the master is about digital marketing. So now it's a master by research, and I'm studying the type of online messages used by Queensland tourist destinations to promote tourism when we couldn't travel during COVID. So it's on digital marketing. It's totally a different set of skills that you use, but it's related to marketing. Yeah.
Great. We've got a couple of questions about when you asked for your internship, did you say that you would be interning for free, or did you just leave that open?
I think he asked me like what how many hours I was willing to put on that. And on that time I was like, okay, I don't know how that works here, because in Brazil you do like a full-time position as an internship, but you get paid for it. Here it's totally different. I was like, okay, I can do 3 months and once or twice a week. And then because I was living in Brisbane and the agency I wasn't on the Gold Coast, he paid me like a weekly allowance. So he gave me the train and I think $10 for food, something like that. But I had this time frame that I was like, okay, it will be 12 weeks, not more than that, because I cannot be working for free forever.
So you went into it thinking that it might be unpaid. You were assuming that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of positive comments, people saying they really enjoyed it because it was so inspiring and awesome presentation. Carla has just asked, would it be a good thing to mention straight away in our cover letters that we're allowed to work because of our visa? Should they talk about the working number of hours with the student visa? Is that a good idea?
I think so. I think so, because I mention it like every time just to make sure that they got that right and I didn't create any wrong expectations. Yeah, I think so. Especially because you are asking for an internship. They already know that you are a student. So that's kind of a little bit clear too. So it's not a whole surprise.
Okay. One more question. Did you have a bit of a culture shock when you first arrived in Australia? What about the culture shock of the Australian working environment?
Yes, it's tricky because nobody tells you things. You just go there and you realize that things are different. So in Brazil, at least, if you start at 8, you arrive at the office, you park your car at 8. And then if you finish at 5, you start to wrap up things. And then normally you leave the office around 6, for example. Here is the opposite. At my work, we start at 8. People are there 7:30. and they are like ready to go. And then by 5, everybody's already in their car. And for me, it took me a while to understand those things, like how, things are different. And that in Brazil, for example, we have the lunch break, it's paid. Here, it's not. So there is a few things that, well, we learn, but there's definitely a difference there.
Great. That's really interesting. Another really good question from Fernanda. She said, did you have to prove your own graduation ever? Did you have to provide the documents, certifications from back home, that sort of thing?
No, nobody asked me anything, but I'm 100% sure that if I didn't deliver what, I was hired to, and they trust, and here's something really interesting, that they trust your word. Say, if you say I'm journalist, I graduated in journalism, they will believe that. But if I write an article that it's like, okay, it seems that a 5-year-old kid wrote this, then they would question, what are your qualifications? But I never reached that point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you can never lie, obviously, about your qualifications. It's a crime. But in Australia, there are many opportunities that are available to people with different qualifications. Even if you're an engineer from back home, it doesn't mean you can't work in a different field. Just having university alone is enough sometimes to get a different job. I can see someone's got their hand up. If you just want to pop your question into the Q&A, that makes it a little bit easier. I think it's Ramani. So Fernanda was actually talking about translating the documentation. So translating your degree, did you have to do that?
No, didn't need to.
Didn't need to. Oh, fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you again, Gabriela. It was amazing to have you here. I think all of our students really benefited from this session. It was really inspiring. And just for everyone to know, all of these sessions are going to be on our YouTube channel. That's the Australian Pacific College YouTube channel, if you want to catch up and watch them later. I'm going to add into the chat right now the MiniCon link, so that you can sign up for some more sessions as well, because as you know, tomorrow we're going to be having 3 more sessions, okay? And for every session that you attend, you can actually get a certificate that you can put onto your LinkedIn, and you can show off that you've attended these sessions and that you're really growing professionally, which is what it's all about. So I'm just gonna add that now. So I'm just multitasking a little bit right now. I can see everyone saying thank you, getting Zoom.
Oh my God, I can see now. Thank you very much, you guys. And who wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so. And yes, Australia needs us. Australia needs international people. And so just go for it. It's not easy, but worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Gabriela.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you so much, Gabriela, and thank you guys for attending MiniCon. So it was a great and inspiring presentation, Gabriela. And I know there's a lot of international students who are feeling, I feel really inspired. And I can say from my personal experience, because I was an international student too. So I can see what you're saying. You should let your work speak for yourself. And the PEO Youngin of APC's PEO was also an international student. So there are opportunities, and as long as you work hard and grab those opportunities and let your work speak for yourself, it can really get you to where you want to be. So definitely inspiring. Thank you so much.
Awesome, my pleasure. Thank you.
I just saw a question about the certificates. We'll be sending an email about the certificates early next week, everybody, if you're curious about that, okay? Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.